Hi guys, I'm Andrew McCoskey and welcome to my last video of this video series all about intelligent design. I'm sure hearing it's my last video is probably very sad news to some of you guys, so for you guys out there who are very sad about that, feel free at any moment to get up and grab some tissues and cry and weep openly. I won't judge you at all for that. Some of you might remember, if you've seen my entire video series, that this video series began because in order to graduate from my high school, I have to do a thing called a senior project, which is where each senior graduating from my high school, in order to graduate, they have to do a, I guess, kind of a project over something. It's supposed to be generally a controversial issue, and really kind of push and drive the student to succeed, and kind of force them to take, I guess, responsibility in learning about and accomplishing a goal. I know, like some friends have talked about, like the airline industry leaving Wichita, and how that's affected. So they did research on that, found mentors for that, stuff like that. Some people did it on like reupholstering their car, and they themselves learned how to do that and accomplished that. And for me, I picked something that was very controversial, which is intelligent design, the theory that the existence of a higher power offers a better explanation for the beginning of life and what we see in the cell and the universe than the mainstream evolutionary idea of a purely undirected evolutionary process. So I decided to do it over that. And it was hard. There was definitely, I think, a lot of research involved. I spent many hours, reading journals and articles that essentially said nothing. It's amazing on both sides of the argument how useless many of the information they give you really is. A lot of it's just filled with opinion and not a whole lot of concept or theory. It was humorous, to say the least. But I've learned a lot through this series. We've talked about what intelligence, what ID really is, because it's misunderstood. We've talked about that instead of being directly connected to creationism or to the Bible or Christianity or anything like that, that it's really a scientific theory that just says what we see in nature and in the universe is best explained by a higher power. It doesn't go into who that higher power is. It keeps it as vague as that. So we've talked about what it is, and we've talked about a lot of the evidence for it. We've talked about the incredible complexity that we see in the cell and in the universe, the discovery of DNA, and we've talked about the possible the odds of life arising through chance alone, through an undirected process, and just how incredibly small that is. And so I guess my conclusion in this video series is my essential question, I guess, to restate it for you guys, was: is the theory of intelligent design a viable theory that better explains the beginning of life than mainstream evolutionary theories? So my conclusion for that is I would say yes. I mean, I wouldn't say we should stop teaching evolution entirely in the classroom and get the Bible in, and no, I'm not saying that at all. Nothing of that sort. But I'm saying what I've seen through this project, what I've learned, what I've observed. It really offers a lot of good evidence for this theory of intelligent design. And I think the scientific community really should give more attention to it and perhaps explore it. And I think we should be aware that intelligent design could be entirely wrong. I mean, it's a controversial science, to say the least. And while I think it has a lot of good evidences, it could be proved down the road to be entirely wrong. You have to be aware of that. But I think it deserves a second glance. And I think the biggest reason why it's kind of being ignored is kind of the shunning term. If a professor or a scientist even talks about intelligent design, it kind of seems like they're just instantly kind of kicked out of the scientific guild, if you will. I think the reason for that is I think people are scared of the implications of intelligent design, because if intelligent design is a thing, if there really is a higher power or higher powers, that very possibly can lead to to a deeper meaning, which could lead to, you know, some kind of a purpose, which I think leads to accountability, meaning, you know, maybe we have an obligation to live our life, you know, for and with a certain deity, instead of just as we want. I think many scientists, many people are afraid of that, and that's, I think, the biggest reason why intelligent design is really incredibly and totally discredited without even really being looked at all. I think that's the biggest reason for that. It's important to understand that that controversial science is a vital point of any scientific community. I mean, if it wasn't for Newton, for the Boyles, for the Copernicuses, for the Keplers, and even for the Darwins, science would not be what we know it today. I mean, these people brought up these controversial and new ideas that were not the norm in their society, and they stood up to the scientific community, stood up to, in some cases, the church, and said, "Hey, we have evidence for this." And with Newton, for example, I mean, with gravity, I mean, that's one of the most surest things we know. And to imagine that you know, a couple hundred years ago, that was controversial. That's amazing to me. But standing up and fighting against what is considered the norm is really how you discover these new scientists, discover these new things about our wonderful universe. You know, really through this series, I really began to, I think, understand just how incredibly lucky we are. I mean, our planet is perfectly placed in the universe. You know, if it was too much this way or too much that way, you know, we probably all wouldn't be alive right now. And we've seen that, you know, that the DNA really is a wonder of our time, and just how incredibly complex it is and perfect it is. And to me, to kind of, I guess, borrow from a book title of Stephen C. Meyer, it appears like we're seeing, you know, a signature in the cell. That what we're observing, you know, in the universe, in the cell, and basically everywhere in nature, to me, the best explanation for that would be the existence of a higher power. That's something that's become increasingly clear to me, you know, by researching and doing this video series. So I feel strongly about that. But I guess my last point as I close this out, and I guess kind of say goodbye to you guys forever, which I know is very sad, is you know, we should let the best science win. You know, I posted a video about, you know, what we should teach in the classroom, and how many ID proponents, you know, they're not saying, you know, we should, you know, throw at evolution and just teach, you know, intelligent design or teach creationism. You know, they're not saying that at all. I mean, many of them are saying, you know, let's put it in the classroom, or let's just explore it, or let's teach the pros and cons of neo-Darwinism. Let's just let our kids, let society know that this theory of Darwinism might not be as sure as we think it is. I think we shouldn't be afraid of the implications of a theory. We should just simply, you know, follow the best explanation and lead that to, you know, to our conclusion. We shouldn't be throwing something out because we don't agree with it, just because we don't like what it may lead to. You know, we need to keep our options open, and by keeping our options open, that's how I think we really further progress in understanding our universe and our world through science. So I guess that's really all I wanted to say. I wanted to say, you know, thank you to you guys for you know, for sticking with it, for watching this video. I know it's not going to probably make a whole lot of a difference. I mean, I'm just a kid from Kansas. You know, what kind of impact could that make? But I hope I'm going to reach, you know, at least one or two of you guys, and that you'll begin to think for your own, question the norm, and hey, maybe this intelligent design thing has a thing to it. Maybe it's a thing that's true. Maybe there is a higher power. You know, I sure hope there is. So once again, thank you guys. Shoot me a question if you need any clarification on anything, and thanks for watching. See you guys.